Here we are. Here we are.
Yes.
And this is my first time doing running the show behind the scenes. So anyway, I forgot to take you and I off the screen, but that's okay. We survived it.
I saw that. It's okay. We'll get
Yep.
through it.
Yep. So we just want to say welcome to everyone. We are back after taking a couple of breaks, watching the Super Bowl, stuff like that. The other thing that has changed with this for right now, we are actually only going to be having our show on our channel now. We're not broadcasting it across 3 different channels at this point, not because of any particular reason. It just kind of made more sense to have us do that. So for tonight, we don't have our typical backhands help like we normally do. So it might be a little bit clunky, but that's how you learn, and that's what life is all about: is learning new things.
Even if it's how you grow, you get out of your comfort zone. And here we are.
Yep, we're definitely doing that. Definitely doing that. So, any other thoughts that before we jump in, John, and start
hit that like and subscribe button. Help us get to 6 million subscribers. Only 5,900,000 and some to go.
Just a couple, just a few to go. So, yeah.
Just, maybe share with, if everyone shared with just, 1 million people that they knew, we'd be there. So.
Do you know 1 million people? You know 1 million people?
So maybe forward it to 10 people you might know, just to help us get some momentum. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and this is about helping each other after coming out of this crazy world.
Yes.
So with that, shall we dive in?
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm super excited about this with this topic and also like where we're going. I'm really excited about the growth and stuff like that. So as always, welcome to Deservingly You. This is where we rebuild after those systems of high control and we learn how to live self-led. I'm Shannon Avery Briggs. I'm a certified transformational resilience coach, and I'm co-founder of Luminous Connections.
I'm John Briggs, also a transformational resilience coach, co-founder of Luminous Connections. And, here we help survivors of high control environments rebuild, with clarity, confidence, and forward momentum, because we've had to do it ourselves.
Yeah. So if you're rebuilding after leaving a high controlled environment and you want more than to just survive, you want that steadiness, you want confidence, and you want that intentional growth, this channel is for you. Not for those deconstruction loops and not for debating, but for rebuilding.
Because community, after control, it just isn't optional. It's formative. It either reinforces your survival wiring or strengthens your self-leadership.
So, yeah, it's been a couple of weeks since we were here. And the last time that we talked about steadiness. And tonight we're actually going to be talking about connection. And it's specifically that power of how you show up in a room. Now, as coming out of the organization and those environments, a lot of times we'd go into a room basically to perform. So this is not, I've got somebody that's wiggling around back here. This isn't to perform. This is how you enter as somebody who knows who they are and who they are becoming. Because if you live, and if you're here live, please type live in the chat. And if you're catching the replay, type replay so that we know that you're here.
And just to reiterate, if you haven't already, please smash that subscribe button, like and share with anybody that you might think need to hear this message. And I appreciate that again. Thank you.
Yep. So let's jump in.
Yep.
So as always, we always set the norms. So before we move forward, we want to set that tone. And this space is steady. It's thoughtful. and it's growth oriented. And what that means is in this environment, we stay on topic. We don't rehash the organization. We actually focus on the future and who we are becoming.
Remember that growth requires regulation. Okay, so breathe, just, arrive, sit tight and notice your body and how you're feeling.
Yep. And participate at your level. You can comment or you can listen quietly, and both of them count. And I just want to call out AZ Movement Clinic that they're here live. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So this series, we've been doing this 6-part series, and it is trauma informed on purpose, because the nervous system doesn't respond to hype. It actually responds to safety and repetition.
And repetition builds identity. Remember that. We're not trying to inspire you tonight. We're just helping you to recalibrate.
Yep. And so tonight, what we're looking at is connection as a resilience practice. So most people think rebuilding is about an action. It's actually not. It's about identity and motion.
And how you show up has 2 layers. Okay, self-leadership internally, social influence externally. So those two facets there.
Yeah. And so one of the things you guys are going to be seeing here in the future is how the lessons that we are teaching, how it connects with a framework that John and I have been working on, and that's called the exit paths. And this is where this connects to that. It's part of that framework that we introduced in an episode probably about 4 months ago, where we talked about the exit generation. Now, for many of you, this conversation that we're having tonight actually sits in phase 3, that foundations of freedom. And this is where you learn how to stop reacting to those rooms that you go in or to those spaces, and start choosing how you enter them. And this is a developmental shift.
You're no longer asking questions like, do they approve of me? You're asking questions more like, am I aligned with who I'm becoming? So that's real power there. Taking, control of your forward momentum in your life.
Yep. And before we get too deep, we want to remind you too, if you've got a notebook handy, make sure that you have it so that you can take some notes, so that you can take some of your ideas and apply them in your life, or share them with others as well.
And maybe write down a question or two that you might have toward the end of the show for Q&A.
Yep. So here's something that most people underestimate. Your nervous system actually enters the room before your words do. And people don't just hear what you say, they actually feel how regulated you are. And if you've ever walked into a space and had that sense and instantly felt that tension, even before anybody spoke, you definitely have experienced that. That's effective presence.
And to go along with that, emotional states, they transfer. Okay. The calm transfers, the anxiety, the resentments. Influence is happening whether you intend it to or not.
Now, we're not sharing this to make you feel self-conscious by any means. And it's meant to help you to return your agency. Because if influence is inevitable, you might as well make it intentional. So a lot of people will hear that word influence. And I remember feeling this when John and I were first going through our healing and our journey and stuff too. When I heard this, I felt the same way. So a lot of people, when they hear that word influence, they think manipulation. But influence isn't dominance. It's actually emotional responsibility. And it's understanding that your steadiness affects the climate in the room.
Skills are learnable. Remember that. See, that's the good news, right? If you learn survival behaviors, you can learn self-led behaviors.
And here's the lesser known insight. In social psychology, researchers talk about something that's called that affective presence, like I mentioned before. And some people consistently can leave people feeling calmer, whereas others consistently leave people feeling tense. And so think about the people that are in your life and the way that you feel after you leave them. This isn't personality, it's actually regulation. And that means that it can be practiced.
Remember, you're not stuck with the way you showed up when you were surviving. That version of you was adaptive. Okay. This version of you is intentional.
Mm-hmm. So what we've got here now is this is kind of a little bit of a pre-room practice. So before you walk into a room or a space or a meeting, before you even enter a family conversation, or maybe you're logging into a Zoom or something like that, before you walk in there, you decide who the you that you're bringing in there. And this isn't to perform, like we said. This is as alignment with who you want to be when you walk in there. So what I bring, I may want to walk into a room and bring steadiness and an integrity. I want to come in with a sense of preparation and also have, care on my heart.
You can think about, what do I intend here, right? Presence over performance, or clarity over approval.
Mm-hmm. You may also want to consider, what do I release? That residue. This is huge for people that have left high control systems, because that residue is like a leftover fear or that leftover hypervigilance. We walk in, we've got to be perfect and everything. The other thing too is, because we were always encouraged to do better and better and better, it can be that leftover approval seeking. So if you don't consciously release that, you're going to leak it.
So you can think about, what do I expect? Do I expect mutual respect, some sort of responsibility, to grow, in this environment, or to notice how comfortable I feel, or grow? What do I want to get out of this?
Yeah. And then that identity. Summon the best of who I am. Not, the loudest, not the most perfect, not the most impressive, the most integrated and the best of who I am at that moment.
So let's type. Can you type in the chat for us? When you enter a room, do you intend to disappear or overperform? What do you think? Let's name it, because I like to say, when you name it, you can tame it and become very self-aware of your actions in real time as things are unfolding.
Yeah. I know for me, like growing up all throughout the years, I was definitely the disappear person. I was the wallflower, was very, very uncomfortable in those rooms. And it was very rare. On occasion, there might be some situations that I would go into that over performance, but for the most part, my typical reaction would be to disappear. It wasn't until I went through the healing and the development that we went through that I was able to show up more as who I am. And even coming on live here, I wouldn't have been able to do that in the past. What about you?
For me, it was definitely to overperform. Yeah. I had to shine, and look what I can do. I'm above average, maybe not the best, but yeah, it's not that way anymore. It hasn't been for years, but as a kid growing up, a young person, and even well into adulthood, I had to shine.
Yeah. So so AZ says, I try to disappear, but if someone challenges me and I can't exit, I'd probably say I overperform to keep myself safe. Yeah. That's what I would do, the overperformance too, is to have that safety. So
Thank you for that.
yep.
Hi, Ruby.
Yeah, Ruby joined us too. So glad that you're here.
Yeah.
So here's a skill that most adults were never taught. That moment. So it's just before you walk into a room, close that last moment before you enter the next. And you don't carry that frustration from the last conversation into the next. So, or say like you're leaving work, and you've had a really, really tough day. It's like closing that off and not bringing it home. How many of us have heard that term before, where we've said, "Oh, I brought my work home with me," and that emotional energy, that emotional weight from the work. So that's what we're talking about here, is not having that residual. And it sounds simple, but it's really powerful.
Yeah. Takes a lot of active awareness there, to be able to reset your breathing, your posture, reset your tone. And before you, walk in the house after work, like you said, bring your work home, because clean transitions, they build influence and build healthier relationships.
Yeah. So one of the ways that you can try to do this, you can try it physically. So say like you arrive at home and pull up in your driveway, you can inhale like you're making space and exhale like you're releasing yesterday. And when we do that, that in a sense is a regulation. And that regulation is the way that you're demonstrating self-leadership to yourself. And then once you've regulated yourself, you move into contribution. And this is where some of you might feel that tension, because when we talk about walking into a room with presence, your body may not picture something neutral. You may picture walking into an environment such as a kingdom hall, where that authority energy is there, or it could even be like if you were in a toxic work environment and going into a meeting room where there was that authority energy there, that platform presence, and where you feel like you were always being evaluated. And if that's your reference point, then this leadership sense can feel really, really heavy.
And many of us were shown a version of influence that looked like control. All right. The correcting, the advising, the monitoring, right? Projecting certainty, right? The truth aspect. That wasn't contribution. Okay. That was hierarchy.
Yeah.
Once you see it for what it is,
yeah,
everything opens up.
Yeah. So what we're talking about here is something that's different. It's raising that energy of a space. Doesn't mean that you're dominating it. You're actually stabilizing it. And this isn't performing, and it's not that spiritual outperforming or even scanning the room to see what's wrong. This is entering that room in a sense of regulation. You're regulated. And we're also, when we do this, we're also attentive to what's going on around us. And we're going to have that warm and clear sense about us.
And healthy influence doesn't shrink people, keep them in some sort of echo chamber. It expands them, and it welcomes the self thinking and asking questions. It makes people feel steadier after you've been there, right? Not smaller.
Yeah. So if this is where, or actually, this is where that shift happens. But in survival mode, you walk into those rooms asking, am I safe here? Do I belong? Who has authority? Whereas when we walk into a room with self-leadership, you're asking things like, how can I contribute here? How do I elevate the tone? And how do I leave this space in with better energy? Now, here's the thing too. This isn't that elder energy or that leader energy. This is integrated adult energy. And that energy is available to you. So now let's think about something here. So for many people that have left high controlled systems, influence feels dangerous. Like we said, it was a lot of it used to mean manipulation to us or that authority, or being the one who had the answer. We had to go to the one who had the answer.
Yeah, and offering perspective, it wasn't neutral, was it? It was either quoting doctrine or risking consequences. Independent framing could cost you, right? Your very family. So when we say offer insight, your nervous system might hear, this is a huge warning sign and some sort of risk exposure attached to it.
Yeah, I kind of imagine like that red light, warning, 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 and
Yeah.
that makes
Defcon 5. No.
that totally makes sense too, because we're trained to repeat that approved language, not to develop our personal voice.
Echo chamber, like I said.
Yeah, and that insight that we had was organizational. It wasn't personal. And so we have to redefine this. Influence here doesn't mean authority. It actually means attention.
Yeah. It starts with connective questions, right? Not interrogation, so to speak, not debate, but connection. Okay. What matters to you? What are you building? Right. And what's been meaningful for you lately?
And here's the shift too. You're not entering the conversation in a way to impress them. You're actually entering that conversation to see them. You're there to go, there you are, I see you. And what this reminds me of, actually growing up, there was a book that I had as a teenager that was titled "Why Am I Afraid to Tell You Who I Am?" And I also grew up feeling very, very invisible. So you're that person that actually sees that person and makes sure that they don't feel invisible. You're the one who is genuinely interested in them, and the one who actually lights up when they share something that matters to them.
Yeah. Enthusiasm here, it isn't performance, either. It's attentiveness. And it says that you matter. Okay. Because you matter. Your experience matters. And I'm here for you. Yeah. That's what that says.
And eventually, so you may offer perspective. But when you do this, it's not going to come from that authority level, and it's not going to be in a way that's correction. It's actually, instead, it's more of a contribution. Something like, here's something that I've learned, or here's what helped me. It's not that message of, here's what you need to do.
And that distinction, it's everything. All right. You're not stepping into dominance. You're practicing secure adulthood here.
Yeah. So if you can imagine real life conversation, because I know, like, for me, way back when, it was like very, very superficial conversations. But real life conversation was more like you ask about them, you learn something about them, you reflect what you hear, and you affirm that effort or character. And the thing is like, as you are getting to know that person, it's not to, go, oh, well, they need to learn this from the Bible, or they need to learn that from the Bible. You're actually interested in that person themselves. And so you want to affirm that effort or character that they're building. We want to build each other up. And if it fits, then, like we said, you might offer something from your own experience. That is the type of influence that we want to do without that manipulation, because that was one of the things that we were taught in that high controlled environment, is if you're attempting to influence, it was with manipulation.
Yeah. And to go along with that, you're able to close clean, right? With warmth, with clarity, without disappearing, without over explaining, and you leave them steadier, and you leave steady.
Yeah.
Steady and confident.
So here's the core too, is that I want to say something really, really clearly here, is that therapy matters. And for many of you, therapy has been life-saving, and it creates safety, and it can help you to process the trauma and also give you the language to what happened. And that work is really, really important.
Yeah, here's the thing. Therapy is normally about 1 hour, and community is what you experience the other 167 hours of the week.
Yeah, the biggest growth leap after leaving a high control environment often happens when therapy is paired with that proximity, when you're able to enter spaces or rooms where that healthy behavior is modeled on a regular basis, because that proximity actually can change your trajectory.
You become what you normalize, right? If that makes sense. Not just what you understand, what you repeatedly experience.
Here's the other thing too, is that community isn't just who you enjoy. It's actually what your nervous system learns to call normal. So if you regularly sit in chaotic rooms, your body is going to adapt to that chaos. And if you sit in rooms where people constantly interrupt you and dominate and compete and debate and all of that, that will become normal to you.
Yeah, it's familiar. But if you sit in rooms, right, where people, they disagree respectively, they own their mistakes, they hold boundaries calmly, and they speak without some sort of dominance behind it, your nervous system will recalibrate.
So therapy can help you to understand what healthy looks like, and then proximity lets your body experience that, and that's the difference. Insight informs you, and then your environment transforms you. And so you also get to kind of practice what you've been learning in that environment.
Some vital inputs to think about would be, the energy standard for yourself, the growth, and the character standard that you want to set. These aren't preferences. Like I said, they're inputs.
So I invite you to notice how you feel after you leave a gathering or leave a room. Sorry, I got an itchy eye. How are you feeling though? Are you feeling smaller? Do you feel wired? Are you drained? Or is it something different? Do you feel clearer? Do you feel stronger? Are you more aligned with yourself? And that was one of the things that I really, even like with relationships, when relationships are not aligned, there was one that in from my past, that after I spent time with that person, I always did. I felt smaller than myself. I felt like I was always trying to fix myself. And, if I'd only do this, then, I was always second guessing our conversations, the things that I was saying and stuff like that, where when I get with the friends of mine who are in alignment with who I am and who I want to be, I do. I feel clear. I feel energized after being around them. And so it's really important to take that data in, because that data helps you to make the best choices for you. So now that we've covered this tonight, let's bring this down to something practical, because growth doesn't just happen through insight. It actually happens through small intentional choices. So here are 3 simple reflection questions. And if you're live, you can answer it in the chat. If you're watching on the replay, pause and think about it. But first of all, it's like, what kind of people strengthen you? Not who feels familiar and not who feels intense, but who actually leaves you clearer and steadier and more of yourself.
Yeah. And second, what's one quality that you want more of in your life this year, going forward? You want more calm, more integrity, honesty, ambition, curiosity, playfulness, perhaps? Whatever it is, name it. Okay. And get clear on it, specific, because whatever you normalize will grow.
And then the third one is, what's one way that you want to show up differently? Now, this isn't dramatically or perfectly, but just differently. Maybe you want to speak up sooner, or maybe you want to listen more fully. And that's a big one, because how many times the thing, even like when we were talking about the conversations before, and John touched on it a little bit, but how many times are you in a conversation and you're really not listening to them because you're already trying to figure out what you're going to say to them? So you're not listening to what they have to say. Another thing that we can do, especially coming out of the high controlled environment, is over explaining what we've been through or what's going on, or trying to excuse, so over explaining it. You may want to practice holding boundaries. And like John said, by naming it, it actually grows. And so that creates movement.
Yeah. I want to add something to something you said about you're not actually you're listening to respond. You said, rather than listening to understand someone. So I've heard it said that way before, and that resonates. But if you'd like to practice this out loud, the StreamYard link is in the chat.
No, not yet. Because this is our first time. We don't know what we're doing.
Okay, well that's out of my hands, that piece. So I was just going with that. No,
if you'd like to join us on stage, put it in the chat. Say, yeah, I want to come on, and we'll get the link. We'll have Ruby help us to get the link on there. And okay, she
said something there in the chat there.
Okay, let me see if I can figure this out. So thank you for your patience with everybody, Yeah,
it's okay. It's a learning experience.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Ruby normally is our admin, and so this is our first time. So just so you know. So we lost, and we actually ended up losing a couple of the tools that we were able to do. So like I said, if anybody is interested in joining us on stage, we can do that. So we'll give you just a second, but we can continue the conversation. What else do you have to say, Johnny?
There's no pressure here. No, just conversation.
Yeah, you can type in your thoughts about this. I'd be really, really curious to see what you guys think about these. Is any of this kind of a new idea?
Definitely understand how that could be the case or is the case. A lot of these are new ideas for most uncomfortable sometimes, to say the least. But
Yep.
that's in order to grow and expand, you need to step out of your comfort zone. And that goes with
Oh,
any one of us.
yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
Ruby, have a good night.
Thank you, Ruby. Great job for your first time. Woohoo! All right. Well, so we'll continue on. So if this conversation stirred something in you, and if you're realizing that you want more intentional community, we don't want this to end here.
Yeah. So, YouTube is public, and public spaces they're powerful for learning, right? I think that goes without saying. But healing often deepens in these smaller rooms, right? You have a learning to learn from each other, from community.
Yep. And I want to pause before I go any further. AZ brought up. I'm shortening your name. I hope you don't mind. So permission to specifically close one conversation before beginning another one is good advice. So thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. And that's definitely what we were talking about. So we wanted to be able to create an environment where we can have that safer space and also have those deeper conversations, and those conversations that are not the debate cycles, and that actually encouraged growth. And so we have started the Exit Generation Facebook group, and this is where we continue this work in a more private environment. And so tomorrow night, these are the questions that we're going to be diving into together. The questions that are listed right here on the Facebook.
Yeah.
I mean, on the Facebook, on the screen.
Right. I was like, what? Okay. Yeah, and inside that space, we go deeper with the questions that you see there in the box. What you're grateful for at this stage of your life. What does healthy behavior actually look like right now? Okay. What's one perspective you've learned from someone outside your former environment?
Also, what kinds of conversations leave you feeling steadier and stronger? And then on the opposite, what kind leave you feeling smaller? And where have you noticed yourself showing up differently than you used to? Now, these kinds of structured reflections and discussions were some of the most powerful transformative parts of mine and John's journey. Not because somebody else fixed us, but because we were able to practice showing up differently. We were able to be honest and curious about ourselves as well as about others.
And proximity matters, right? When you sit in rooms where people are rebuilding intentionally, your nervous system learns that, being stable and stability is normal.
Yeah. So if you want to continue this conversation in a more grounded and relational way, please join us there. The link is in the description of our channel. And then also after we post this video, I'll post it in a comment as well so that you can join the Facebook group. Like we said, we're discussing these exact questions in the group tomorrow, and we want to learn more about each other, and we want to be able to support each other.
Yeah. And you don't have to share right away. You can just check it out, right? Settle in, observe, and you can listen and hear what others are learning about themselves, and see what resonates with you. You can participate whenever you're ready.
Yep. And this group is really small right now. So, and remember too that if you're rebuilding after high control, you don't have to do it alone. So let's go deeper and let's do this together. So next week, we close this New Year's protocol series. This was a 6-part series, and we're going to be ending it with something that's really important, that meaning beyond survival, because rebuilding isn't just about stabilizing. It's we want to rise. We want to be better.
Yeah. And rising without returning. Okay. Mm-hmm. Not going back to who you were before control, not trying to recreate a former version of yourself, but building a life that grows with you, right?
Yep. So we're going to talk about why we get back up is not about returning to where you were. And then also what the dip actually is and how we can move through that without quitting on ourselves. Why satisfaction doesn't equal complacency, and how to build a life that actually ladders upward in that meaning and fulfillment. That's what we want, right? We want to have lives that actually have meaning, and we feel alive, and we feel that we matter, and we can feel it to the fullest.
Yeah. And after that, we're gonna introduce something foundational, right? The exit generation, exit paths.
Yeah. So this is the roadmap that we've been building underneath all of these conversations. We kind of introduced it a few months ago, like I said earlier in the show. These are 5 phases of rebuilding after high control systems. This is a directional framework.
Yeah, because survival isn't some sort of phase, or it is a phase, excuse me, not a life sentence.
Yeah. So if this series has been helping you, make sure that you're subscribed and share it with somebody who's also rebuilding. And also join us next week as we move from survival into that meaning. And it'll be a great foundational piece to get us ready for the next week, where we bring back the exit generation. We decided that we're going to really focus in on that. And that's kind of what we're shifting to help you guys see where you are in your journey, your personal journey. So to close tonight, I want to encourage you to surround yourself with people who demand more of you. And let me try that again. Surround yourself with people who demand more from you than you demand of yourself. Now, before that word demand tightens anything in your body, let's redefine it.
Yeah. So demand here doesn't mean pressure. It doesn't mean correction or control. It doesn't mean authority. And it doesn't mean someone monitoring you or looking over your shoulder either.
Yeah. It means that the community that you build around you calls you upward. And the other thing too is that this isn't through fear, it's through support as well as through example.
Yeah. It's a natural process. When you put yourself around people that are extraordinary, you're going to naturally just strive to be and do better, right? In whatever ways that resonate with you, right? It's just a natural thing that human beings do, And you watch how they handle conflict, you watch how they take responsibility, you watch how they speak with integrity, and something in you just rises, right, to match it.
Yep. So it's not that they're forcing you by any means. It's that they normalize that maturity and you want to step up to it. And healthy rooms or communities actually stretch you gently.
And not because you're not enough, right? But because growth is standard. It's just the standard norm.
Yeah. So here's the thing too, is that after high controlled systems, this distinction really matters because we were trained to equate stretch with shame. But in a healthy community, that stretch actually feels steady and inviting as well as empowering.
Yeah. You leave thinking, right? You want to grow like that, right? Not like I need to perform in order to be here.
And that's the difference. And that was one of the things that when John and I were we were part of this group, this personal development group, and we'd come out of that feeling so much different. It was like night and day, the way that we would walk out of that educational program versus when we walk out of the Kingdom Hall. We felt Like we were never doing enough when we would walk out of the Kingdom Hall. But coming out of this other thing, we're like, I want to work on this and I want to work on that. And I want to build myself up here. And this is how I can help this other person and stuff. So it was almost like black and white.
And I can do it my way. You know, I figure things out that work for me rather than being in some sort of echo chamber where you're not allowed to ask questions. You got to think this way and believe that way. And yeah.
That's kind of your phrase of the week, huh?
Yeah, it keeps coming up.
Yeah.
So let's calibrate. Okay. Why this matters now. Because the spaces you enter are shaping you every day, every week, right? And going forward. And whether you choose them with intention or not.
Yeah. And if nothing changes, you can unknowingly repeat those survival patterns in those new environments. It's just different people. That same nervous system posture that you carried before.
Yeah. And what becomes possible with intentional choice, okay, is steadiness, self-respect, aligned relationships, and rooms and spaces that strengthen you and other people around you.
Yep. So if this resonated with you and you want that deeper connection, want those deeper conversations, please join the Exit Generation community. Like I said, I will have the link below once we save and upload the video. And wherever you go this week, please choose spaces that help you become more of yourself.
Not louder, not smaller, more integrated. And remember, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, smash that button, share with as many people as you possibly can who might need this message. We appreciate you. Help us get to 6 million subscribers.
And thank you so much for spending time with us. Please keep rebuilding and keep rising. Live deservingly you.
Thank you again.
So do you want to chat for a second?
With you?
Yeah. Well, with
Are they still on, you mean?
Yes, we're still on. We are still on.
Okay.
All right. So thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We really, really appreciate it. And with that, we will say good night.
Absolutely.